All right, here is a sicha of the Lubavitcher Rebbe from Chelik Gimmel on Mishpatim. Elo Mishpatim asher tasim lifneihem. These are the laws that you should put before them. Zayin Razal Medayak and the Verta lifneihem. It says these are the laws that you should put before them. It could have just said in the Torah, Elo Mishpatim, these are the laws. I didn't even really have to say anything. It could have just said the laws. Didn't have to have this introductory sentence. But nevertheless, it says, these are the laws that you, Moses, should put before them. The rabbis imply from this, from the word before them, lifneihem, v'shteit in pasuk, what says in the pasuk that we should learn many things. Number one, the mishpatim, that the laws that you teach them, zayin lifneihem, they should be before them, below lifnei ovid kochavim, and not in front of non-Jews. These are mishpatim. These cases are usually that are talked about in this Torah portion, and most of the laws are legal laws that are taken to court. So it says these are the laws that you should take before them. Lifneihem means also before them, means before Jewish judges and not before non-Jewish judges. Jeder Sichsuch zwischen Jiden darf gebracht for Lifneihem. They should be brought before Jewish judges for Yiddish Dayanim, was poskin, which they go according to the laws of the Torah, and not in front of not Jewish judges. Even when we're talking about with people, non-Jewish judges, that their laws are just exactly like Jewish judges, nevertheless, it's a law that you're supposed to try to take the case in front of Jewish judges. Now, I'm just reminding that there's three types of laws in Judaism, and all of them, to a certain degree, all of the laws in Judaism, there are, in general, there are 613 commandments from the Torah. 613 commandments. There's 248 of them are positive commandments. 365 of them are negative. In other words, prohibitions, commandments. But there's three, they can be divided in three general categories. There's commandments that are logical, like don't kill, don't steal. Most of the commandments in the 10 commandments. Don't kill, don't steal, don't commit adultery, right? Don't lie, don't worship other gods, don't be idolatrous. Then there's laws which make, they're not exactly sensible, and that you wouldn't come to them on your own. But once they're said, you see there's religious, people have religious needs, desires. So the religious, something like Shabbat, keeping the Shabbat, putting on tefillin, these are religious signs that people do, the different holidays. But then there's commandments which make no sense whatsoever. They make no sense whatsoever. Those are called chukim, and those are commandments which are totally illogical, and they're also not religious. They have nothing to do with the Jewish religion, right? Don't eat milk and meat together. You're not supposed to boil milk and meat together, even if you don't eat it. It's forbidden to boil milk and meat together. All these little laws and things that make absolutely no sense whatsoever. When you put on tefillin, right, that they have to be exactly square, they have to this, you have to put it on your left arm, the right arm, the mezuzah has to be on the right side of it. These are laws which make no sense. Nevertheless, that's what God told us that we have to do. Well, another one of these laws is that you have to take these court cases and you have to bring them whenever possible in front of Jewish judges. You have to bring it in front of Jewish judges. Unless it's impossible, there's all sorts of extenuating circumstances, but nevertheless, that's the main law. It says you have to take laws, so that's what it means. Elo Mishpatim, these are the laws you should put before them. In other words, all Jewish law, you should try to bring it in front of a Jewish judge. And even if the non-Jewish judges are better, and even if they go according to the laws of the Bible, and they say, oh, we see you people are Jewish, well, we know all the laws of the Bible, we'll go according to your laws. You're supposed to try to go in front of a Jewish. That's the way. Base. Lifneihem, another meaning that you have to, these are the laws you should put before them. As thus learned mit the Talmud, as thus learning with the Talmud, when you learn, you teach the Torah with a pupil, zol zayin ofen from ler osam lo panim. You have to show him all of the sides, the faces of the law. The Judaism is very, very different from all the other religions because it's based very, very strongly on understanding. Everybody has to understand. Children are taught to read from 3 years old. Or this has been going on for 3,300 years since the Torah has been given. Children at the age of 3 years old, they're already starting to learn Torah. They're starting to learn. Learning is very, very important in Judaism. It's the essence. Nobody naturally would come to the laws of the Torah. Nobody naturally would keep the Shabbat. Nobody naturally would even know when Shabbat is. Who cares, right? Maybe who knows what there's any logical way you can figure out that today is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. No such thing. You look at the stars, the moon, the seasons, no indication whatsoever that there's a 7-day week and you have to keep this. And on Shabbat, it's forbidden to turn on a light. Where'd you get that from, right? But nevertheless, that's the fact. It's forbidden. How do you know it's forbidden? You have to learn. That's the idea of the Torah. So by Judaism, learning is very, very important. So first one thing we can learn from this is that when you have a judgment, you should put lifneihem. You should put in front of Jewish judges and not non-Jewish judges. Another law, another teaching from this, when you teach a Jewish child Torah, you should put it lifneihem. Panim, you should show him all of the faces. Panim means faces. It was all the facets of the law. Menzal erklären. You have to make clear the reason, verstand, and understanding from the gelernte halacha, from the law that you're learning. Because it soll sich ablegen beim Talmud, until it should be rested by the pupil. In other words, the pupil should know very well all of the details of the laws, even the laws like we say that you can't understand, milk and meat. But there's so many laws about milk and meat that it's one of the criterion for becoming a rabbi. You have to learn the laws of milk and meat. It's like 20 chapters of very difficult laws that you have to learn, right? In order to learn all the laws about, milk and meat, what exactly is considered to be milk, and what is called meat, and what about not kosher meat, and what about not kosher milk, and what is called boiling. Boiling is forbidden. What if you salt them together? What if what if the bottom one is hot and the top one is cold and the top one is hot, bottom one is cold? What if there's one is solid and the other one's, look, so many laws involved. On nitzogen, you have to show all of the sides. And nitzogenim, don't just say, just say this is the law and don't ask questions. You want to understand it, go understand yourself. No. You're teaching a child, you have to put it all in front of him. A deeper understanding is of this word lifneim. The Alter Rebbe explains, the first Rebbe of Chabad says, Asher tasim lifneim, that you have to put the laws inside of the pupils. As zal nimshach veren bechinas adas from elokus and pinimius from Yidden. That when you teach a Jew a law, or when you teach a Jew Torah, it has to be stressed very much that this is God's Torah. And the job of a teacher is not just to awaken the child's mind, but also to awaken the child's heart and his soul. That he feels that this is what God really wants from you. In other words, that's what's called the secrets of the Torah. In Sasim, the tief far bargain and far hoiliker madregos, the deepest hidden and highest levels of the soul you should try to arouse by the child. The alle in yanim b'Chassidus, Chassidus, like everything in Chassidut, is oich dem marumas. This is also in the revelation of the Torah. Where does it say? Asher tasim lifneihem. Tasim, the word tasim, it says means a hidden treasure, sima, ha'utzer. So elo mishpatim asher tasim, these are the laws that you should find the hidden treasure, lifneihem, inside of them. The pnimis, the inside and the hidden jewels of the Torah, that's the susim of the Torah. This is also the word susim means what is concealed, hidden. The hidden treasures of the Torah that are hidden and concealed, the mysteries of the Torah. That's the hidden treasures. Why is it not moving for me? Uh-oh. When you teach them the inside of the law, and this arouses the inside of the soul. So that's one of the purposes of the Torah. The Torah is supposed to arouse your soul when you feel that this is really God's wisdom, not just what God said 3,000 years ago, but what God wants right now. Right? It's like if you read an anatomy book and you learn anatomy, right? Anatomy, you see a human body, it says, oh, but this is not relevant now. Look, this anatomy book, it was written in 1923. Probably the skull is different now. And this is what man is. This is it. This is where the heart is, and this is where the head, and this is what God is right now. That's what the Torah is. The Torah is just giving us an awareness of what God wants right now. When a person feels that, then that wakes up his soul. We already spoke once, is that verschiedene Perushim, that all the different explanations which are from the same word in the Torah have a connection one to the other. We have to understand what is the connection between all of these three explanations, lifneim. Namely, lifneim, that you should take your court cases in front of Jewish judges. Lifneim, that you should teach your pupils all the faces of the law, the facets. And number three, that you should try to arouse the soul, the secret hidden aspects of the Torah and of its laws inside of every Jew. Lifneim. Understand. We also have to understand what's Torah Zuk, which Torah says the law as is. Why is it this doesn't move? Why? Understand. We also understand what's the Torah Zuk, which the Torah says as the Horah, as zal zayin lifneim, that the law should be before them, davka by mishpatim. And why does it say elu mishpatim asher lifneim? Mishpatim lifneim to bavust, as is known, wherein the mitzvahs from Torah eingeteilt in drei sugim. Like I said before, the laws of the Torah can be divided into three different categories. For some reason, this is not responding to me here. Can't move it up and down. I think maybe I should move over to this 158. Maybe we will move location here. Okay, we know that there are three different aspects of the Torah, which is just what I just explained to you. And now I'm going to change addresses here for a second. Excuse me. Simply wasn't responding. Here we go. There's three types of laws. Like I said, there's laws in Judaism which are understandable. And that's called mishpatim. There's laws. Same thing. What are we going to do? Here we go. There are laws which are understandable. There are laws which are religious. And there are laws which are totally not understandable. The laws which are totally not understandable, those are what's called chukim. Like I said, not eating milk and meat. There's laws which are religious laws, right? They testify on something that happened in Jewish history or whatever. That's called edut. And then there's laws which are logical laws. Those are called mishpatim. Mishpatim are laws that you could come to on your own. On your own. So we also have to understand, why is it that these three things that we said before, that you had to take the laws in front of a Jewish court, and when you're teaching the child, you have to teach him all the different aspects, and that you should awaken the soul. This is spoken about in Mishpatim, in the logical laws. What about the other two laws? The other two types of laws which are not understandable. The mitzvahs in the Torah, as we know, the mitzvahs are divided into three general categories: chukim, erut, and mishpatim. The difference between them is in understanding. Chukim, these are laws which cannot be understood logically. You do it only because God said this is what we have to do. I made a law, this is my law, and you can't do it. Right? You're not allowed to. On Shabbat, you're not allowed to write a letter. You can't write one letter. Right? You want to write the letter M, don't do it. It's a sin. Can't do it. If you write two, you get punished. Two letters, that's the worst. What's so bad about that? Right? God decides. That's what God wants. Right? That's a law. You don't ask any questions. You do what God says. Then there's another type of commandments that's called edut. Edut, zayin and zayin mitzvahs. These are mitzvahs which they do have a place in understanding. But like it says that the Torah, if the Torah would not have been given, so human understanding could understand and come to these. I'm sorry. Wenn Torah wird auf sie nicht angesagt, wird der Seichel allein nicht mechayev gewesen. These are commandments that if the Torah would not have been given, you would not have understood these commandments on their own. Right? You wouldn't go eat matzah on Passover if the Torah wouldn't have told you to eat matzah on Passover. You wouldn't. As medarfa zalcha mitzvahs, these mitzvahs you have to do, but after the Torah tells you what the reason for them is then you put tefillin on because it's a sign on your arm, it's close to your heart, a sign on your head. No, that's okay. You want to remember God. So then that's called edut. This is like a religious commandment. Masber zayin for shidden. This you can understand. So there's laws called chukim which have no understanding whatsoever. There's laws which are maybe Kabbalistic. There's laws which are edut, which you wouldn't come to them on your own. But once the Torah says, so you can understand them. We left Egypt, we ate matzah. Oh, so I'll eat matzah, right? Then there's the laws Mishpatim, and that's what this week's Torah portion is called, Mishpatim. Mishpatim, these are types of laws was the menschliche seichel, which human understanding alone would understand and come to do them. Not only for them is a place, but it says if the Torah would not have been given, God forbid, then we could learn modesty from a cat. We could learn not to steal from a ant. It says the ants, each ant has its little, whatever it is, piece of sugar or whatever it's carrying. And each one has minds its own business, doesn't steal from another ant. Right? If one ant loses its sugar, it goes back to the beginning, it doesn't steal from another one. I've never seen if this is true, but that's what it says. So also the cat, it says cats, they go to the bathroom, so they go off to the side a little bit, they cover it. A filu ven the Torah, even if the Torah was not given, we would learn these commandments. Okay, this is the laws of Mishpatim. As specifically by Mishpatim, it says you should put lifneihem. Specifically by these laws, which are logical laws, by this it says you should take them only in front of Jewish judges. When you teach the children, teach them all the different aspects, and you should awaken the soul. Well, what about the other two types? The Cheora, Midvos is the Hora. What does it say, Lifneim? Why is it so fitting, Tsugipast, Nogea, to the Mishpatim, and why is it more relevant to these logical laws, the Mishpatim laws, more than Chukim and Edus? Loit Erster Perush, according to the first that we said, that Mishpatim is, you should take them only in front of Jewish judges and not in front of non-Jewish judges. Well, if these are logical laws, what difference does it make who you take them to? If non-Jewish judges are geniuses and they're good and they're people with integrity and they judge logically just like Jewish people. I mean, these are logical laws, mishpatim. So why not take in front of them? By Sug Edus, I can understand if we're talking about Edut, like the keeping of the laws of the holidays, or the laws like putting on tefillin. So those you wouldn't take in front of a non-Jewish judges. By them is a vadai, but certainly the laws which are chukim, right? You go in front of a non-Jewish judge and you say that that I want to know I'm eating milk and meat. Can I eat? How long do I have to wait? Well, the non-Jewish judge doesn't know what you're talking about. Darvmen nita zov, for sure you shouldn't go in front of them, from a not Jewish judge. It's just selbstverständlich, it's understood, self-understood. While to a zelchadini, because such laws, which like edut, religious laws, Jewish religious laws, and laws which are totally illogical, for sure the non-Jewish judges, they have no understanding in these things. Oh, but the mishpatim, but these laws which are called mishpatim, vu as ken sein mitzius, there could be. These are laws that are logical. It could be that the non-Jewish judges does the same thing as the Jewish judges. So why can't we go in front of non-Jewish judges? These are mishpatim. These are logical laws. According to the second experience, and one, the horos, that we have to show our pupils all of the faces of the law. Lifneim, that's a second meaning, as they're learning, that when you learn by a pupil, it should be understood very well. Is dach lechiora. Now we can understand it's proper to say that this is good. This lechiora wichtig zu ansagen die Hora beim Sug Edus. We could say, listen, this maybe applies also to the laws of Edut, these religious laws. Also, they should be explained on all the facets. Why just Edu HaMishpatim, only and even more the chukim. Chukim are laws that you don't understand at all. For sure, you should try to explain. As chaj the seichel, even though that according to the understanding of edut, right, your intellect doesn't obligate you, and the chukim also, your intellect does not obligate you to do them. But doch zol im muz their limud from their Sugim seinen and ofen from Lifneim. Aber beim Sug Mishpatim, wie bald as das seinen Mitzvahs was der Seichel Anushi is a mechuyev, is mere pashut as seinen Lernen vet seinen and ofen was vet sich ablegen by him Talmud. By the others, by Mishpatim, the child, he already knows the laws. It's logical. You shouldn't have to spend so much time explaining. By the other two laws, edut and chukim, which are not so understandable, so there requires a little bit more understanding and a little bit more work, right? So why only by mishpatim do you have to explain all the sides of the law, and by edus and chukim not? But you should also explain by those as well. So there's also the third explanation, lifneim lepinimiusam. In order to do the laws of the Mishpatim, that you have to awaken the soul. A person should ankom and to the isorus from Penimius and Neshama. In order to do the laws, you should arouse the inside of the soul. Why? Vibalt, as because they legen sich up euch in gewein lichen seichel. Andrish is by chukim was seinen hecher from seichel. So by the logical laws, the mishpatim, so there we can understand that you have to arouse the intellect, the soul. You have to arouse the soul. Muz by zeh zayin these arus from penimius and neshama. So by the logical laws, the laws which are said, so it's not really so important. You have to arouse the soul. The main thing is you should just do them, right? Don't steal, don't kill. These are logical things. You don't have to, well, the reason you shouldn't steal is because, there's a deeper reason, arouse your soul. It's not so necessary. Just do the laws. By the laws which are not understandable, So there has to be something, motivation. There you should have to arouse the kaneim, the inside. Barum is there he's orus afilu as vet ze mekayim zayin vet zayin blois val is muchrach, he does it only because he needs to. Muza zoi tan, that he has to do so. The logical laws, a person will do them because they're to his benefit. A person will logically come to laws: you shouldn't steal, you shouldn't kill. They're to my benefit. So those you don't have to worry so much about teaching them the inside and arousing his soul. But by the other laws, where there's not so much of a motivation, not eating milk and meat together, so there you have to arouse his soul. You have to have some sort of an inner reason, because it's not, his logic won't dictate that he should not eat milk and meat together. If so, we have a question. Why does it say Mishpatim asher tasim lifneim? Why only in the laws that are called Mishpatim does it say that you have to do these three things, these three different explanations? Number one, take them only in front of Jewish judges. Number two, you have to explain all the faces of the law. And number three, you have to arouse the soul of the person. It seems that Mishpatim, these are here it's least required that you do these three things. By Mishpatim, they're logical laws. As what difference does it make if you take them in front of a Jewish judge or a not Jewish judge? As long as he's a good judge, what difference does it make? Also, the thing of to show them all the faces of the law, legal laws. So it's easy to understand. You don't have to work so hard. The laws that are the religious laws, right? These are not logical. You have to put it in front of them. And how much more so the laws that are the chukim, not understandable. You have to tell them exactly what the details are, because it's not understood on its own. Why does it only say this by mishpatim? And how much more so the last one, which is lifneim, means to arouse the soul. When we're talking about regular laws, doing laws, so the main thing is just to do them. Right? And you don't have to rouse the soul. These are logical. They're benefiting you. By the other laws, the deeper laws, for sure, you do have to arouse the soul, that a person will have a motivation in order to do the laws which are religious, and how much more so the laws which have no sense whatsoever. As we will talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. Thank you very much. We'll have a class at 3:00, God willing. Shalom uvracha. Have a good day with Mashiach now.